Chapter 1. I found myself reborn on the night of my birthday party, the same evening when my husband James boldly declared his love for me in front of our college classmates. We were so young and naive then, convinced that love could withstand any storm life threw our way. It was only later that we realized love could fade, worn down by life's challenges, leaving behind nothing but complaints and the debris of shattered dreams. Just like now, James, who had already lived through our past, suddenly pushed me away as if awakening from a dream. Caught completely off guard, I stumbled and fell, knocking over the cake, the colorful cream splattering across my white dress. Yet James felt no remorse. Amidst the shocked gazes of our friends, he glared at me with open disdain. Our classmates rushed to help me up. "Zoe, are you all right? James, what on earth are you doing? Have you lost your mind?" Only after being reprimanded by those around him did James seem to realize the gravity of his actions. He first let out an inexplicable laugh, then turned to humiliate me. "Zoe, do you actually think I like you? I was just messing with you. How could I ever like you? Just seeing your face makes me sick. I will never love you in this lifetime. Get over it." The room fell into a stunned silence, all eyes fixed on me and James in disbelief. Looking at his contemptuous expression, memories of our previous life flooded my mind, especially the moment we stood in the Civil Affairs Bureau, clutching our divorce papers. He had seethed with hatred, blaming me for everything that went wrong. "If it weren't for your infertility, would my mother have pressured you? If you hadn't acted like a resentful shrew, suffocating me daily, would I have fallen for Sarah? If I could go back, I would never marry a spiteful hag like you." As I clenched my fists, ready to smash a beer bottle over his head, my best friend Sarah, who had been quietly sulking in the corner, stepped in front of me. "James, how can you say that? You know Zoe has had a crush on you for years. Even if you don't like her, you can't humiliate her like this. Today is her birthday. This is beyond cruel." Her words, while seemingly sympathetic, subtly suggested to everyone that I was just a hopeless fool in love with James. When James saw Sarah, his gaze shifted down to her legs, a flicker of delight crossing his face. "Sarah." "Humph." Sarah ignored him, instead tugging at my arm. "Zoe, let's go to the bathroom to clean your dress." I suppressed my anger and didn't protest. Once we reached the hallway, I suddenly turned and slapped Sarah twice. My resentment towards her was as strong as my hatred for James. In my past life, I had treated her like my closest friend. After her husband passed away, I lent her money for rent and even helped care for her 3-year-old son. I never imagined she would betray me with James while I was pregnant. In disbelief, Sarah covered her face, looking utterly aggrieved. "Zoe, why are you hitting me? Just because James doesn't want you, you can't take it out on me." James burst out of the room just in time to witness this. He stepped in front of Sarah, shielding her. "Zoe, I will never love you again. If you dare touch her, I swear I won't let you off easy." Did James honestly believe I still loved him and was attacking Sarah out of jealousy? How ridiculous. With a sneer, I retorted, "Fine. I hope you both enjoy a lifetime of happiness and don't repeat the mistakes we made." Sarah stared at me, bewildered and hurt. "Zoe, what are you saying? There's nothing between me and James. You must be mistaken." Pretending to be virtuous while playing the victim, Sarah had been like this since college. I was too naive to see her feelings for James and foolishly confided in her about everything. Even after catching them in bed, she had the audacity to say, "I was involved with James back in college. If he hadn't felt sorry for you, he would have been with me long ago. Forget it." With a chance at a new life, I refused to waste my days on these two scoundrels. So, without casting them another glance, I turned and walked away. Chapter 2. Upon returning home, I was overwhelmed with emotion as I saw my young, healthy parents. In my previous life, they hadn't approved of James, but I had been determined to marry him, causing them immense distress. James was tall and handsome, but his family background was lacking. When my parents first met his parents, they were crude, superstitious, and selfish. Our James is now a government employee and on the path to becoming a director. If Zoe marries him and lives in a rented house, she'll be the laughingstock. "I heard you have a 4-bedroom apartment. Why not put it in their names as a marital home?" James remained silent. Blinded by love, I thought his parents were simply being realistic, ignoring my parents' grim expressions. My father, a university professor, and my mother, a dance teacher, always held their heads high. They silently endured the dinner but exploded in anger once we returned home. The first meeting and they're already eyeing our house. Zoe, you absolutely cannot marry into that family. James is no good either. That freeloader look of his is infuriating. They had seen this coming, but I was too deep in my romantic dream to listen, convinced my parents were being snobbish for looking down on rural folks. I severed ties with them to marry James, breaking their hearts in the process. The first year of marriage was sweet, but after moving his parents in, my life became miserable. I wanted to continue my studies, but James's mother pressured me to have a child daily, forcing me to give up and find a job as a broadcast host. After a year, I still hadn't conceived. When James and I saw a doctor, we learned the issue lay with me. His mother's cruelty intensified, branding me barren. Desperate to conceive, I quit my job and began the arduous journey of IVF. Enduring painful injections and procedures, I faced disappointment after disappointment. My mother-in-law showed no sympathy, repeatedly insulting me. Why aren't you pregnant yet? Did you have intermination before? Is your womb damaged? If you had any conscience, you'd admit if you've been with many men and done shameful things. If you can't have a baby, you'll have to divorce my son. We can't let him be wasted on you. She constantly brought ridiculous remedies, forcing me to drink them. The worst was when she made me consume a live toad. Those were the darkest days of my life. I yearned for a divorce but endured because James treated me well, comforting me with sweet words daily and even arguing with his mother on my behalf. Mom, if you keep this up, we'll move out. James became my sole emotional support. I believed everything would improve once I finally got pregnant. But when I finally did conceive, I discovered a lipstick mark on James's underwear. I instantly recognized it as Sarah's doing. After becoming pregnant, I had given her all my makeup, including that lipstick. She had deliberately left that mark as a provocation. She knew I wouldn't stand for it and would likely divorce James. But I endured, pretending not to know anything, secretly consulting a divorce lawyer, and gathering evidence to secure my assets. Once fully prepared, I made the gut-wrenching decision to terminate the 6-month pregnancy. They were so eager for a grandson after all. In a fit of rage, I packaged the remains of the fetus and sent it to James's office, along with the divorce papers. Within a day, James was utterly shattered. His parents came to our house, crying and creating chaos, demanding justice. Chapter 3. But I felt no satisfaction in revenge. Instead, I was haunted by the knowledge that I had taken my child's life. It made me feel like a monster. I loathed them for shattering my life and my beliefs. Had it not been for my parents' unconditional love and acceptance, my profound depression could have led me down a dark path. Yet heaven granted me another chance to choose differently. This time I looked at my parents and declared, "Mom, Dad, after graduation, I want to pursue further studies." Their eyes glistened with emotion. "We fully support your decision," they replied. I continued, "But what if I decide I don't want to get married?" They smiled warmly. "Then stay with us. Your happiness is what matters most. Live life as you wish." These are my enlightened, unconditionally loving parents. I was foolish to betray them for a man. This time I promised to love myself and them even more, and to embrace a fulfilling life. Returning to university, I caught a glimpse of my youthful, tall, and naturally beautiful reflection in a window. A wave of unprecedented confidence surged through me. As I walked across campus with my suitcase, I noticed many people turning to look at me. Even some boys, blushing, shyly asked for my contact information. I had become a campus beauty. James was drawn to me for my looks and my family background. How did I ever humiliate myself for such a scumbag? Marriage isn't a necessity, but men are. How else can I fully enjoy my youth? Moreover, forming friendships and connections is vital for building a network. Before long, I attracted more admirers than in my past life. My name often graced the confession wall. I joined the debate team and the hosting group, earning recognition and admiration from my mentors. One evening at a cafe, I met a tall, athletic student. Coincidentally, James and Sarah were there. Lately, I had heard a lot about their escapades, James's relentless pursuit, elaborate confessions, Sarah's tearful acceptance, and their seemingly perfect match. Their high-profile displays of affection were often plastered all over social media. But these only filled me with disdain, stirring no other emotions within me. I had already avenged myself in my previous life and I had moved on. Yet James seemed unwilling to let me go. In the cafe, while I chatted with the athletic student, Sarah, clinging to James, approached me with a pitiful expression. "Zoe, why haven't you answered my calls or messages? Are you still upset with me?" "Zoe, I really don't want to lose you as a friend. Can you find it in your heart to forgive me?" James interjected. "Sarah, there's no need to grovel to her. I've always loved you. We didn't do anything wrong to her." In my previous life, when I caught them in bed, James had begged for my forgiveness. Now they were flaunting their relationship in public. I understood his current arrogance and satisfaction. As for Sarah, who lacked memories of the previous life, she was merely parading around for stealing the campus beauty's man. My background, popularity, and looks far surpassed hers. Yet her crush was infatuated with me. She must have been consumed with jealousy. The atmosphere grew tense. The athletic student regarded me awkwardly, while the cafe patrons watched in silence, anticipating a spectacle. Finally, I spoke. "Take him. A three-legged toad is hard to find, but two-legged men are a dime a dozen, especially scumbags." I smiled, leisurely sipped my drink, and turned to the athletic student. "Can we continue our conversation without interruptions?" Chapter 4. Sarah was left speechless, while onlookers regarded her like a fool. Determined, she pressed on. "Zoe, everyone knows you've had a crush on James for 3 years. You must be heartbroken. But please don't rush into a relationship just to spite us. It only makes me feel guilty." James, feeling insulted, chimed in mockingly. "You're really desperate." But his words deeply offended the athletic student, who retorted angrily, "Your entire family is desperate. Don't think I won't take you on." Compared to the muscular, tall athlete, James was quickly reduced to a crumpled heap. The crowd intervened, and I merely watched the spectacle unfold. When security arrived, we were all escorted to the principal's office. Many cafe patrons had witnessed James and Sarah's provocations, and even recorded videos that circulated online. Since they were in the wrong, and knowing the athletic student and I were members of the debate team discussing upcoming events, the students and teachers sided with us. The athletic student, wealthy and unwavering, covered James's medical bills but refused to apologize. In contrast, after some stern admonishments from the teachers, James and Sarah had to offer apologies to us. Following this incident, James and Sarah's reputations took a nosedive, especially Sarah's deceitful behavior. Rumors circulated that her dorm mates began to distance themselves from her. My life, now free from James and Sarah, became increasingly vibrant. By the end of my 3rd year, I was appointed captain of the debate team and represented our university in a national competition, winning a gold medal. I also became a key member of the hosting group, emceeing various events. At the end of the semester, I was awarded a national scholarship for my outstanding academic performance and unexpectedly received an offer for a master's program. It was an extraordinary life I had never dared to dream of in my past existence. However, with memories of the past weighing on him, James's life also prospered. Reportedly, he amassed a fortune through stock trading within a year, purchasing a mansion and driving a luxury car before graduation. Knowing the future is akin to holding the key to wealth, but without a solid foundation, such speculative gains can lead to a harsh downfall. In my previous life, James, due to his humble background, was diligent and ambitious, often studying late into the night with me. To secure a government position, he never allowed himself to relax. But now he was rarely seen in the library, his name absent from the scholarship list, and he was seldom spotted on campus. The last time I laid eyes on him was at the New Year's Eve party at the end of the semester. I was the host, and he sat in the front row with his dorm mates. He looked resplendent, dressed in designer clothes, but his appearance lacked the youthful vigor of the past, instead resembling a nouveau riche. On stage, I wore an elegant gown, effortlessly handling unexpected situations and deftly controlling the event's flow. Whenever I caught James's gaze, I found him staring at me, wide-eyed with surprise and a hint of nostalgia. We were like the most familiar strangers separated by centuries. Chapter 5. After the party, I received numerous gifts and confessions from admirers. As I was about to leave, I overheard James conversing with a friend. Zoe is becoming even more beautiful and was directly accepted into grad school. What kind of guy would she be interested in? Why? Are you thinking of pursuing her? You'd better think twice. What do you mean? Am I not good enough for her? Not that. She may look perfect now, but dating her is a nightmare. She's sensitive, suspicious, and high maintenance. Really? You sound like you've dated her. When were you two together? Never mind. Marrying a woman like her is bad luck, and worse, she can't have children. The friend laughed derisively. She can't have kids? Did she have an termination? If she can't have kids, I wouldn't want her. James, that scoundrel. We were no longer a part of each other's lives, yet he still had the audacity to slander me. How infuriating. Just as I was about to confront him, a tall, burly man suddenly stepped in, scolding James. A grown man with such a vile mouth. Aren't you afraid of being struck by lightning? She's a good girl and you keep slandering her. It's inhumane. James retorted. Why are you so upset? I'm just speaking the truth for everyone's sake, so they won't be misled by her looks. Believe it or not. That was Xavier, the man who had introduced me to doctors for IVF in my previous life. Tall, stocky, and possessing a strong sense of justice, he had already become a chief physician at a young age. He had even given me a simple yet thoughtful Christmas gift. A pair of knitted socks and a shawl. They were modest, but they warmed my heart. Now Xavier seized James by the collar. You're talking nonsense. She's nothing like you say. If you slander her again, I'll make you regret it. James laughed shamelessly. What? Are you going to hit me? Who do you think you are to her? Zoe may be a jerk, but even she wouldn't want you. As Xavier raised his fist, ready to strike James, I casually approached him. Xavier. Everyone turned to look at me in shock. Ignoring the crowd, I leaned in closer and said softly, Xavier, I like you. Will you be my boyfriend? He froze, clearly taken aback, before pushing James away and walking toward me in disbelief. What did you just say? I looked up at him earnestly. I said, will you be my boyfriend? When I repeated the question, more people emerged from the hall, gathering around to witness the unfolding drama. He awkwardly asked, are you joking? Is this truth or dare? I shook my head firmly. No joke. I like you, Xavier. Will you be my boyfriend? If not, I'll just ask again later. Whoa! The crowd erupted in cheers, chanting, Get together! Get together! Finally grasping the situation, he stammered, Of course! I'd be honored to be your boyfriend. Can you walk me back to my dorm? I asked. Absolutely, he replied, blushing. Can I carry your things? I handed him my bags, grateful. Thank you. I didn't glance back at James, not caring about his reaction as I left with Xavier. Chapter 6. After saying goodbye to Xavier outside the dorm building, I received a message from James. It was from an unfamiliar number since I had long blocked him on social media. Zoe, are you out of your mind? Are you with that fatty Xavier just to get back at me? I was amused by his message. Who does he think he is? Among all the average guys, he truly is the most delusional. Confessing to Xavier earlier was indeed out of spite, but it was also a way to slap him in the face. Before that, Xavier and I often met in the library, and after getting to know each other, we frequently saved seats for one another. Xavier is entirely different from James. He is reserved, steady, wise, and humble. He may not be conventionally handsome, and he is a bit chubby, but his features are well defined, and his eyes carry a certain charisma. More importantly, in my past life, Xavier was a well-regarded surgeon. When my father had a stroke from the stress caused by my issues with James, it was Xavier who saved him from the brink of death. During my father's hospital stay, I saw firsthand what it meant to have a doctor's compassion. If I had to choose a man to spend my life with, I'd prefer someone of good character. Even if life became mundane and love faded, he wouldn't treat me badly. I deleted the message and blocked the number again, choosing silence and ignoring him. Any more words exchanged with him would be a waste. I hoped he would stay out of my life forever. However, the next day he called me from another number. Let's meet and talk. I know you've been reborn too. What is there to talk about? The moment our lives restarted, we should have gone our separate ways. Stop bothering me. Zoe, you ruined me in our past life. I can't just let it go. I've been losing sleep. Though I hate to admit it, you were the woman I loved the most. We were crushed by money and life's trivialities in our past life, causing us to lose our way and forget our true selves. James's voice choked up. Zoe, we've changed now. We have a chance to start over. I can forgive everything and start anew. Can you forgive me too? I was shocked by his words, and after a moment of silence, I said slowly, Do you have time? Let's meet. James was ecstatic. Okay. I'll come to your dorm's entrance right now. No need. Let's meet at the cafe by the east gate. I'll see you there. All right, I'm heading over now. After hanging up, I put on a jacket and headed out. It was a 10-minute walk, and from a distance, I saw James's flashy car parked at the entrance. Entering the cafe, I saw James seated by the window, exuding an air of arrogance. A pretty girl approached him to ask for his contact info. James coldly replied, Sorry, I have someone I like. The girl walked away disappointed, and I noticed his smug smile. Upon seeing me, he adjusted his expression. The cafe was filled with the aroma of coffee beans. James leaned forward eagerly. See that car outside? It's mine, worth over $200,000. I also bought a big house, something we always dreamed of. My life has changed, and if we start over, we could be very happy. I looked at him mockingly. What made you change your mind suddenly? Just the other day, you told someone that marrying me would bring bad luck. James looked regretful. I said that in anger. Knowing other men are eyeing you made me feel like I was being cheated on. Zoe, I realize now I still have feelings for you. Let's consider the past life a dream and start over. I finally understood. So you truly loved me? James replied. Of course I truly loved you. I asked, and what about Sarah? Chapter 7. As long as you're willing to come back to me, I'll break up with Sarah immediately, James said seriously. When we first got reborn, I was still stuck in the past and angry, which is why I got together with Sarah. Even in our past life, she was just a fling. In my heart, you're my wife, the one I want to spend my life with. But I have trouble getting pregnant. What about your mom? You eventually got pregnant, didn't you? And now that I'm well off, we can go abroad for better medical treatments. You're still young, Zoe. You don't need to worry. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. James's expression turned stiff. What do you mean? I looked at him with disdain. James, even though you can use your memories to earn a lot of money, you haven't grown at all. How can you be so confident that I would fall into the same pit twice? Have you forgotten how you and your mother hurt me? James grew angry. But you already got your revenge. You ended our child's life, I lost my job, lost the lawsuit, and ended up with nothing. My mom was hospitalized from the stress. Despite all this, I'm willing to forgive you and give us another chance. Shouldn't you be touched? Ha! All that was your karma, you're just desserts. In this life, the next, and the one after that, I will never forgive you, James. And I no longer love you. After discovering your affair with Sarah, the only thing I felt for you was hatred. This time, I would rather marry a pig or a dog than have any interest in you. I picked up the cold coffee on the table and splashed it in his face. Wake up and see clearly. I'm not the same woman without self-respect who you could deceive. People around us turned to look. James, drenched and humiliated, glared at me. Zoe, you'll regret this. I didn't bother to argue further and left the cafe with large strides. That evening, a video of me splashing coffee on James was posted on the school's confession wall. The video was short but clearly captured my last words. Wow, this is some juicy gossip. So Sarah really was the third wheel. Our goddess is so cool. That's how you deal with a scumbag. James used to look down on Zoe, but now that she's successful and beautiful, he must be regretting it. Xavier saw the video and called me. Zoe, did he harass you again? Why didn't you tell me? I replied, I handled it. He shouldn't dare come back anymore. Xavier hesitated, sounding a bit unhappy. Zoe, I received an acceptance letter from Harvard University. I was thrilled. That's amazing. Congratulations. But why do you sound unhappy? Xavier said. We just got together and I don't want to. He was considering giving up the opportunity for me. I reassured him, it's okay. If we're meant to be together, we'll still be together after 4 years. It's a test of our relationship. If we can survive long distance for 4 years, we'll get married. Chapter 8. 4 years later, Xavier returned as promised. Like in the previous life, he became a doctor at the city hospital. However, this time with my encouragement, he had developed a habit of working out, losing weight, and transforming into a handsome man. After a romantic proposal, we arranged a meeting with both sets of parents. Coincidentally, Xavier booked the same restaurant where my family had met James's parents in the previous life. Xavier came from a family of doctors. His parents were not extremely wealthy, but they were kind and humble. Xavier's father handed me a bank card. "Zoe, this is for you and Xavier to buy a house. It's only $1.5 million, enough for a down payment on a 3-bedroom. I hope you don't mind." Xavier's mother gave me several jewelry boxes and a large red envelope. "Here are the 3 gold pieces and a jade bracelet passed down from his grandmother. If you have any particular requests for the betrothal gifts, please let us know, and we'll do our best to meet them." Their family treated us with respect and sincerity, making my parents extremely happy. Thinking back to the meeting with James's parents felt like a dream. Halfway through the meal, I went to the bathroom. In the hallway, 2 children were running around, bumping into people. With a scream from a waitress, hot soup spilled everywhere, filling the air with steam. Fortunately, I was far enough away not to be burned, but it was a scare. The 2 children cried in fear, while the waitress, who was badly scalded, screamed in pain. I quickly splashed a basin of cold water over her. Others rushed to help. Soon, the children's parents arrived, and I realized the 2 people holding the children were Sarah and James's mother. James's mother held the little boy, about 2 years old, and yelled at the restaurant staff. "What happened? How could you spill soup? If my grandson gets hurt, I'll make you pay." Sarah added, "This is unbelievable. Such a small child, scared out of his wits. What kind of restaurant is this? I'll file a complaint." The 2 of them berated the staff, while the injured waitress cried and cursed. "It was your kids running around that caused the spill. How dare you blame us?" James's mother retorted, "What nonsense! You weren't careful and now you're blaming our kids? Ridiculous." The waitress insisted, "It was your kids. They ran into me, causing the spill. You must take responsibility." A heated argument ensued, with James's mother and Sarah out-talking the waitress, recording videos and threatening to expose the restaurant if they didn't get compensation and an apology. I didn't want to get involved, but I couldn't stand by. It was indeed the kids running around that caused the accident. I can testify. Everyone turned to look at me, and the restaurant manager was grateful. "Thank you for speaking up for us." Sarah recognized me. "Zoe, what are you doing here?" James's mother, who didn't know me, said, "You're with them, aren't you? How dare you falsely accuse these children?" Sarah added, "That's right. She has a grudge against our family. Her testimony doesn't count." I didn't want to argue further and suggested to the manager, "Why not check the surveillance footage?" The manager sighed, "It's broken." At this point, several other customers came forward. I saw it too. It was the kids running around. Me too. It was definitely the kids. James's mother began to throw a tantrum. "You're all in on it. You're bullying us." Someone then approached with a phone. I was recording a video and caught the whole thing. Sarah and James's mother lost their momentum. James's mother said, "They're just kids. Why argue over this?" Sarah, holding the child, tried to leave. At that moment, James arrived from the elevator and Xavier, worried about my long absence, came to find me. After understanding the situation, James was furious, shouting at Sarah, "How could you let this happen? All you do is play with your phone." Sarah retorted, "It's not my fault. Your mom said running and jumping is good for them." James snapped, "She's used to country life. What does she know? You can't even take care of the kids without blaming others. All you do is spend my money." Watching their argument, I felt like I was seeing a glimpse of my past life. This was James. Sweet and caring while dating, but a different person after marriage. Xavier and I returned to our private room, leaving their mess behind. We resumed our meal with our parents, immersed in our happiness, as if nothing had happened. After the meal, Xavier went to get the car, and our parents stepped outside. I went to pay with the card Xavier gave me, but James stopped me. He was impeccably dressed but looked exhausted. "Zoe, are you and Xavier getting married?" I took out a wedding invitation. "Would you like to come?" He hesitated, taking the invitation, and said out of nowhere, "I'm divorcing Sarah." Surprised, I asked, "Didn't she give you a son and a daughter?" James replied through gritted teeth, "Zoe, I know I was wrong. I really know now. In our past life, you did so much for our marriage, and I betrayed you out of folly. I swear if you give me another chance, I'll treat you right. You're the woman I love most. Please give me another chance." I didn't hesitate for a second. "No. Belated affection is worthless, James. Your love is worth less than dirt. I already have someone who loves and cherishes me. Don't even think about it." James's eyes reddened, and he began to cry uncontrollably. I felt no sympathy, only that his karma had come too late. I turned and left, his sobbing growing fainter behind me. Xavier approached and put his arm around my shoulder. "We're going to try on wedding dresses later. Our moms want to come too." I smiled brightly at him. "Sure." Chapter 10. After that encounter, James seemed to lose his mind, sending me lengthy apologies and confessions. Every time I blocked a number, he got a new one. He even waited for me outside the TV station where I worked. One day, he ran into Xavier, who didn't hesitate to confront him. After that, James didn't dare come back. On our wedding day, James showed up with a red envelope containing a generous amount. He got drunk at the reception but thankfully didn't cause any trouble. Half a year later, at a class reunion, I heard that James and Sarah had divorced because Sarah's youngest son wasn't his. Apparently, after James got rich, Sarah couldn't handle the loneliness and had an affair. The youngest son was the result of that affair. I recalled James's hesitant expression when he mentioned divorcing Sarah. He must have known about her infidelity back then. What goes around comes around. He finally tasted betrayal from a partner. After the reunion, as Xavier and I prepared to leave, he received a call from the hospital and had to go in. Late that night, as I was about to sleep, Xavier called, sounding urgent. "Zoe, are you awake? What's wrong? What happened?" Xavier replied calmly, "It's James. He was the patient I was called to save. He's in critical condition and keeps calling your name, wanting to see you one last time." I paused for a moment before saying, "Xavier, I secretly went to the hospital for a checkup. I was going to tell you tonight. I'm expecting." Xavier couldn't hide his joy. "Really? That's wonderful." Yes, it was wonderful. This time I conceived naturally. I didn't want to sacrifice my career and happiness for a child, so before we got married, we told Xavier's parents that I might not be able to conceive. Initially, his parents were disappointed, but later Xavier's mother approached me. "Zoe, we've discussed it. If you really can't have a child, we'll adopt one. As long as you and Xavier can grow old together, it doesn't matter." I knew this was thanks to Xavier, who convinced his parents. A man who truly loves you will protect you. Someone who doesn't love you will not care if you are hurt. So I won't go. It's bad luck to mix joy with sorrow. That night, James closed his eyes forever. We later learned from the news that he had been poisoned by Sarah. James had been ruthless, finding someone to harm Sarah's lover until he was paralyzed for life. He even used my previous method against him, transferring assets to leave Sarah penniless. It was truly karma. In the end, Sarah was sentenced for intentional